So we're going to get into this because I only have 30 minutes, and we're going to really try to explain a lot of where this whole constitutional sheriff movement comes from and why it is so important. If you haven't figured that out yet, let's reinforce that for the next 25 minutes or so. This should be, I hope the sound is really ready to go on this. Just so you know, this happened to a deputy sheriff in Albany, New York at the airport. And this, bottom line on this is all we are after. This is all we want across America, is for deputies and sheriffs and peace officers and chiefs of police, patrol officers, whatever. This is how we want them to behave.
The YouTube video going viral, posted on the internet by two activists who brought a camera into the Albany International Airport while they passed out flyers. Now, it led to a heated dispute over First Amendment rights. Beth Wortman has our top story. Beth?
Hi, Benita. Well, as you'll see in the video clip, an airport spokesman tries to stop these activists from their mission, but a sheriff's deputy steps in to settle the confrontation and the right to free speech.
So, hey everyone, this is Ashley Jessica. I am here at Albany International Airport.
The young woman is standing outside the security checkpoint at the airport, telling the camera that she's there to hand out flyers to travelers, reminding them of their right to opt out of getting the body scan, which she claims carries health risks.
Okay, hold on. First of all, turn this off right away.
Airport spokesman Doug Myers tells the crew to stop videotaping and to go downstairs, which they agree to do, and they are confronted again.
Do you have $1 million insurance policy here? You're violating the airport authority guidelines. You haven't paid. That doesn't matter to us at all, okay?
So
you can check that out.
Doesn't matter?
No, you're in our airport.
But as the tension builds, Sheriff's Deputy Stan Lennox steps in, separating the two parties, then lays down the law.
Obviously, this is your constitutional right, okay? Yep. As far as we're concerned, you're not breaking any laws, okay? That's what we want to get across to you guys.
Okay.
Who in the world is this deputy telling people what their constitutional right is? He's not a lawyer. How dare he? Remember when I said this is all we're after? This is exactly what every one of us should do who swore an oath. If we swear an oath of allegiance to the Constitution, what does that presuppose? That you've read it, that you've studied it, that you know what the intent was of those who wrote it. Isn't that what we try to prove in court? What was the intent? You see, if it's an accident, it's not really that crime, is it? But if there was criminal intent, that's what we have to get. Motive. What was the intent of the Founding Fathers? That every facet of government, that all three branches of government would be doing the same thing, but in a different lane. And the other two branches are always supposed to be doing what? Making sure the other branches stay in their proper lane. That's called checks and balances. And this deputy, Stan Lennox, received the CSPOA Deputy Sheriff of the Year in 2013. And God bless him. Let's see.
Myers objects, ordering airport employees to allow only ticketed passengers upstairs, accusing the activists of blocking the escalator. But once again, Deputy Lennox defends their First Amendment rights.
Okay, so that means we're doing it for, I told you who I am.
Okay.
I am Jason Burmis.
Let me see your identification.
I don't need to show you my identification.
He doesn't have to show you his identification.
He doesn't have to show you his identification. This guy is being exactly what a true peace officer is supposed to be doing. The guy who's causing the trouble, he told him to go back to his office and leave these people alone. How many times would that incident get out of hand and out of control? Deputy Lennox called back to the station and asked the supervisor what he should do. The supervisor told him the truth. They're not breaking any law. That's their constitutional right. Make sure they know that. That's a constitutional sheriff, and that's a constitutional deputy. That's all we're after. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing according to those lies that we just told you about that we don't participate in. And while we're on that, let's make sure every one of you know the CSPOA or I have never advocated violence of any kind. As a matter of fact, if we do this and we stand now while we still can peacefully, we will prevent the violence. But continuously allowing citizens to be frustrated and oppressed and abused, you don't think that's ever going to get violent? Yeah. It will. And this is an incident what we totally oppose.
Now to a News 10 exclusive. A Stockton man wants an apology tonight for a wake-up call he should have never received. It is a story you'll only see on News 10. Lee Painter tells us why police and federal agents knocked down his door.
This is what they did to my door.
At 6 this morning, a SWAT team surprised Kenneth Wright at his front door.
In my underwear. Before I get to the door, I hear him say, "Hit it." And I get ready to hit the door, and they hit the door. They almost hit me. So I said, "Hold on." They hit it again. I said, "Hold on."
But the SWAT team busted in, taking Wright.
They come grab me by my neck and drag me out my house to right there in the grass.
Thrown to the ground and handcuffed, law enforcement then searched his house.
And they put me in the backseat of a police car for over 6 hours. From 6 o'clock to 12:30. They had me handcuffed in the back of a police car with nothing on but my ripped up underwear that they ripped in the yard.
Wright says they also woke his 3 children, holding them for 2 hours. But they failed to find their quarry, Wright's estranged wife. Wright later complained to Stockton's mayor and police, but the city pointed to the U.S. Department of Education.
They say you owe a student loan and you gotta pay it. I just had my door kicked in because of this.
With the help of the Stockton Police Department, News 10 was able to contact one of the federal agents.
Yes, you heard correctly. A no-knock warrant for an unpaid student loan of his estranged wife. Total, complete truth. Yeah. And so when the feds come into your county and they want you to go help them with this, what are you going to say? Come on. Are you guys crazy? You're going to come in and do a felony no-knock warrant? They announced themselves, hit it with a battering ram, and went in. Student loan. If somebody owed you money, wouldn't you love to have a SWAT team collecting for you? That's really what this was. And then at the end, they said, "Oh, it was really kind of something else, but we can't tell you what that is because it's still under investigation. And we don't raid people because of student loan failures." Well, we found out they had 1,500 more of them in Houston, and another man got it there too. So we would have stopped this, that's an easy one. But Stockton police went with them and helped. And no. See, the federal bureaucrats want us to all join them in that kind of crap. No. This is the type of injustice that we're supposed to be stopping. This should never be happening in America, but it is. And by the way, this was under the Obama administration. Yeah, big surprise. Okay, who said this? There are 2 types of laws, just and unjust. I would be the first to advocate obeying just laws. One has not only a legal but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. And might I add to that, I still hear sheriffs saying we have to enforce all laws. Has that ever been true? And have we all done that? I sure didn't. I mean, if it were true, then how many, well, the first one that comes to my mind is actually, it was against the law to cohabitate when I was sheriff in Arizona. It was against the law to shack up. How many of my deputies could I have fired for breaking that law? I never enforced it. I don't believe in shacking up either. But I still didn't enforce it. What a stupid law. How many law enforcement officers would have been lost in your agency? Sometimes both the husband and wife. I worked with husband and wife in police department when I was first a rookie. Could have fired both of them. No. And then they would have to register as sex offenders. Yeah. Stupid, huh? Why would we enforce stupid laws? Why would we enforce any unjust law, ever? Well, it's not for us to decide what's unjust. Oh, yes, it is. You took the oath. Who's responsible for you fulfilling your oath? The judge? Your sergeant? Your wife? Your husband? Who? When you get on the stand, who's responsible for you keeping your oath? You say, oh, my sergeant told me to lie. Nuremberg trials. Those guys were still found guilty because you know what their excuse was at the Nuremberg trials? I was just following orders. And yet we say the same today all the time. It does not justify committing an injustice. We do not enforce unjust laws. And who is to determine that? The person who took the oath. That's who. And you know it's not in the Supreme Court where it talks about the Supreme Court in the Constitution? The word interpret is not there. It's not there. You know what? The Supreme Court justices took the same oath we did. We're not supposed to. Who said it earlier? I think, was it Bob Songer? I'm not interpreting the Constitution. I'm enforcing the Constitution. That's what the Supreme Court's supposed to do. But they've been turned into political hacks. You know, on my Supreme Court case, the 5 Republicans sided with me and the 4 Democrats sided with Clinton. Funny how that goes, huh? I was offended by it. Why aren't they just looking at the principle and ignoring all the politics behind it? Okay, who said this? Who said this quote? That is correct. Martin Luther King, and he is totally correct. And and in fact, the first 23 black congressmen were what party? Republican. And let's see, we could go into that history too about, 100 years how the Democrats fought against civil rights, and they promulgated all the Jim Crow laws, fought against freeing the slaves. After 100 years, how is it that any minority joined the Democrat Party? I don't know where that happened. I think maybe it was some deal they made with Lyndon Johnson. Here's the oath. The oath says that, you guys, I'm not even going to talk about the oath. You already know what it is. But we swear allegiance in God's name to the Constitution. And instead, what do? I had a sheriff just 2 weeks ago whose citizens came and said, you know what he told us when we told him we were being abused by the COVID-19 executive orders? He told us to get a good lawyer. We are not a lawyer referral service, especially when you can stop the injustice with a simple phone call. And you call the health department and say, oh, by the way, you're not to enforce any of that in my county. Do you understand? Or stop by the health department and tell the director, we're not doing that here. Why? Though that's pretty easy, because we believe in freedom. And people still make their own choice. You know what the whole backdrop of American freedom is? Self-governance. Self-governance. We teach correct principles, and like Jefferson said, we'll persuade, we'll educate, we'll reason with, we will not force. And that's on us when we allow that to happen. And how we enforce the law says a lot about our integrity and our humanity. And we can't forget that. Compassion still should be part of what we do. Now we're going to keep going here. The Constitution, Article 6, is where the supreme law of the land requires the oath of office. We swear that oath because the Founding Fathers put it in Article 6. The supreme law of the land says you must. And how we still accept it, that it's summarily ignored or wittingly ignored. If you swear an oath and violate it, at the very least, what crime did I commit? That's perjury. I totally think we need to start investigating public officials for perjury. Now, what is the purpose of all government? Somebody already mentioned this too. I think it was Officer Rick Dalton. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. That is why we exist. Have we caught on to that? That's the only reason the people need government is to protect liberty. And I don't even think that this thing well, we're protecting the safety of the community. And you're going to force me? This totally frustrates me. Did I act frustrated right then? Yeah, I did? Okay, good. This totally frustrates me when public officials come to you and say, but this is for your own good. That's not our role. That's not what we do. I'm going to arrest you and tase you because you won't put a mask on? Now tell me who committed the crime there. Do you know that people have a right to be left alone and make their own choices? If the other people around that maskless woman didn't like it, they could spread out. Do you know that you don't need a mask on at all if you're 6 feet apart? Even the CDC said that. Now they're trying to make it 16, but that'll always change. Hasn't it all been really changing enough to where you really are getting suspicious about it? You know? Come on. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government. That's right out of the Declaration of Independence, and it says it a different way. At 2 different times in the Declaration of Independence, they reiterate when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, the people's right. It is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. My dear friends, I did not make this up. It was written by Thomas Jefferson. I trust him. I know him. Do you know what? Before he got this approved, he had to take it to all of the other delegates at the I was going to say Constitutional Convention, the Declaration of Independence Convention in Independence Hall in Philadelphia. They had to all approve it, which they did. All of the founders did that were there that day, 3 of which were former sheriffs. Oliver Wolcott was one of them, former sheriff. My dear friends, this is amazing stuff. How do you throw off such government? Remember, we do not advocate violence. But I don't believe this happens just because we vote. I don't believe that at all. And we totally believe in civil disobedience. And we totally believe in trying something else. But would it not be appropriate if we the people can do that, that we could tell government, even governors, no, we're not going along with that? You've already heard from some tremendous sheriffs that have already been doing that. They tell the governor when he's out of line, no. Now, I want to get to one other one here. We're going to come back to some of this other stuff later. But I'm going to finish up today. What's my time left? Clyde, do you know how much time I got left? I'm pretty close. Oh, you liar, Clyde. I started at 1. Okay, good. All right. Well, we might have some better ones. I've got two things I want to show you, and then I'm going to sit down and maybe make some room for some other people. Okay? This is a quote right from my Supreme Court case at the district court. The district judge said this about me. Mack is thus forced to choose between keeping his oath or obeying the law, subjecting himself to possible sanctions. You see, this is why I'm still shocked to this day. This was 1994. I'm still shocked that thousands of sheriffs didn't join this lawsuit. This is a threat of arrest. We're getting threatened to arrest us. And Judge Roll was incensed that the federal government could actually threaten sheriffs for failure to comply with an unfunded, unconstitutional mandate from the President and U.S. Congress. Anybody believe that the President and Congress can tell you how to do your job or threaten to arrest you if you don't? That's what happened. I sued the Clintons and lived to tell about it. Thank you very much. And the Clio. The Brady Bill itself called the sheriffs the chief law enforcement officer. They didn't take this to the county attorney. They didn't take it to the AG, the state AG. They didn't take it to the board of supervisors or county commissioners. Nationwide, they brought it to the sheriffs because they knew we were the Clios. And it calls us, throughout the entire decision, it calls the sheriffs who filed the lawsuit the Clios. There were 7 sheriffs in the entire country who did this lawsuit. Do you know how many sheriffs there are? 3,080? 7. I don't know what the percentages of that is, but I'll bet there's at least 0.000 before you see the percentage on that one. And there's the threat of arrest right there. That people think I make this stuff up. You can look it up on your internet yourself if you want to. The U.S. DEA were down. The U.S. drug agents engaged in sex parties. Cartels supplied the prostitutes. Do you know what happened to these agents? There was dozens of them. And this investigation went on for years. Absolutely nothing. Not even disciplinary action on this type of criminal activity. You see, the federal government has completely, this also was done under the Obama administration. They have a complete set of rules for themselves and different for everybody else. Can you imagine this kind of crime? And the only thing that happened was the first female director of the DEA resigned. Nothing else happened. Nothing. And we're supposed to trust these people to come into our counties. Really. And you're going to allow the IRS to come into your county and do whatever they want to citizens in your county. Why would you do that? The IRS, all of them. You want to look up the crimes the IRS has committed in this country? And we all just accept it? No. Okay, this one I want to show you also. This is Judge Roll. Counselor, do not pretend in this courtroom that your statistical analysis somehow equates to constitutionality. Do you catch the importance of that? Isn't that what we do with gun control all the time? They want to get you in the argument as to whether or not it reduces crime if you have gun control. First, let's make no mistake about it. The Second Amendment makes sure that you all know that gun control in the United States is against the law. It's against the law. Then you want to argue with them whether or not it reduces crime or creates safety or doesn't, back and forth on that. You want to do a statistical analysis argument with everybody about the Second Amendment? The question is it against the law? Argument's over then, isn't it? It's already over. It's unconstitutional. And you know the first thing about the intent of the Founding Fathers regarding why they established a Second Amendment? Why'd they do that? So they could prevent any further abuse from King George the types in the future. And if we have to, we would always retain the right to rebel. And that's what it was there for. if we ever have to rebel again, that right is in my closet or on my hip. And that's why they did it. Look at the history, and it'll show you why the Founding Fathers put that as number 2. It prevents abuse. It keeps us in charge to where we can throw off such government, and we protect liberty. And we have the final say what happens. We the people are the final say in this government. We the people are. We're the most important, powerful part of our entire government. Government needs our permission to exist. We don't need theirs. Okay. There we go.
Let me have those front seats. Y'all better make it light on yourselves and let me have those seats. Are you gonna move? No. If you don't give me that seat, I'm gonna have you arrested. You may do that.
Jesus.
Yes, sir, I warned her.
Well, then you just do it. You gotta exercise your powers and put her off.
All right, now I'm gonna need police backup.
Let's just go. Let's go.
We all know the story. 2 sworn peace officers arrest an American citizen for not giving her seat to a white man. I was 3 years old when this happened. December 1st, 1955, Montgomery, Alabama. Peace officers. Do they not understand the first part of the Declaration of Independence in the second paragraph, where it says we hold these truths to be self-evident? All men are created equal. We believe in that. We totally believe in that. We believe that all of us should answer to the rule of law equally, even federal agents, even more so if you ask me. How should this have played out? I've always thought about this. I've never talked to anybody else who asked that question. Pastor Ernie has heard me say this before. Maybe some of you have. Maybe you're one of the peace officers that gets on there that day. Maybe you're the sheriff who took the call. Maybe you went back into time and you answered the call. The question is, will you answer the call today? Okay, so you're in dispatch when the call comes out, and you tell the dispatch, I'll take that call, and you take Officer Smith with you, Deputy Smith. And you're close by, because it was right downtown, sheriff's office is close. What time of year was it? Christmas, of course, yeah. Good cheer and all that stuff. December 1st, 1955, and you and your deputy get on the bus, and you walk up to Rosa Parks, and the sheriff goes, Mrs. Parks, what seems to be the problem here? And she looks up with her beautiful eyes, kind of swallows. She's not sure what's going to happen here, but she's not too thrilled with it. She's scared. What could have happened to her for what she did that day? A lot, maybe even lynching. This was not going to bode well for her. And when the sheriff asked her that question, she looks up and says, "Why can't we just be left alone?" And that touches the sheriff. And he sits down next to her. And he reaches over and shakes her hand. And he said, "Mrs. Parks, what you've done here tonight took a lot of courage. And I admire you for it. And it would be an honor for my deputy and me to escort you home safely." And they escort her home safely. And then what do, Sheriff? You tell her and her husband to make sure that you have your shotgun handy. And that we're going to be giving you extra patrol all night long and throughout the few coming days. Why? Because he wants to prevent anything, any retaliation that might be going on to her and against her and her family. And his right to self-defend, you want to make sure that happens. Because you can't be there 24 hours a day, can we? But you gave them extra patrol and you give them extra patrol and you stop in and talk to them and maybe have a lemonade with them. And my dear friends, that is a constitutional sheriff. Amen. What did he do? What did you do with the law of stupidity, hate, and prejudice, and a cultural norm, a law built out of cultural norm and hate and stupidity? He threw it in the trash where it belonged, where a lot of our laws belong today. And because we're scholars of the Constitution and we've studied this and read this, and we know the intent of the founders when they put the Bill of Rights in there, that these were a list of untouchables. That these are the rights that could not be violated under any circumstance, and certainly not for a COVID-19. Whether it be a hoax or not, I've heard both sides calling it a hoax. I don't care if it is. They don't have the right to do it no matter what it is. And we, promising already that we would uphold and defend the Constitution, our duty is already there. Everyone knows what our duty is. I have to protect people from being arrested for not wearing a mask. I have to protect the pastor for having church. And boy, I'm saying right now, CSPOA needs to team up with every pastor in the country that'll join with us so we can bring the people together. We can bring pastors together. We can bring the church together. And we will not allow any Rosa Parks pastors to be arrested, if you catch my metaphor there. And do you know that there was a sheriff in Florida who arrested Pastor Rodney Howard Brown for having church? Absurd and ridiculous and absolutely idiotic. How could we do that? How could we do this and just go on and act like everything's fine? The reason we study history is so that we can not repeat the mistakes of the past. We're just moving the abuses to other places, aren't we? We're still doing the abuses. We just call it a different thing now. But obviously it's for your own good. It's for your health and well-being. Don't tell me you destroy my liberty and then tell me it's for my own good. Don't tell me you're ruining my business and shutting me down and tell me it's for my own good. Protect my right to choose for myself, and then I'll believe you. We teach correct principles, and we leave the rest to the people. My dear friends, later on I'm going to close this meeting. I've already been so edified. You would think that we've already got our money's worth. But there's a lot more to come today. And you're still going to learn a lot, and you're still going to feel the spirit of freedom. And because where the spirit of freedom is, there is liberty. And there is my God. And I have felt that today. I've felt the Spirit of God in here today. And I have been so impressed by the word spoken. Sheriff Mark Lamb, Sheriff Songer, Officer Dalton, Sheriff Nichols, Sheriff Vaughn. And Sheriff Vaughn made this whole thing happen. And I think he had some other sheriffs working with him. But look at this room, mostly full. Thank you so much for being here. We will support you. We will hopefully unite us in this holy cause of liberty, as Patrick Henry called it. And we will go back to our states and back to our counties, working with chiefs of police so that we're all on the same page, where we're all following the Constitution. Can you imagine all of law enforcement saying in your county, we will follow the Constitution. We will strictly enforce the Constitution. And you let all other agencies know that. Let your governor know that. Let other bureaucracies in your state know. The Constitution in this county will be adhered to, enforced, and loved. And liberty will be the winner. Let's see, who gave us liberty? It was not the Constitution. It was nature or nature's God. Thanks so much. I will be back a little bit later. Be ready to rock and roll the rest of the afternoon. And God bless us as we say the same thing the Founding Fathers said. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and sacred honor. May we do likewise. Thank you.